but we managed to stay in budget. We are under budgeted our membership fee income. On the investments, we have the preliminary plans for evaluation. And for the audit, we have the competitive tendering sent to 6 companies that do audits. Financial Real Estate Committee and the leadership team will be reviewing these, deciding on in April. We have 2 to 3 invited for further discussion based on the competitive tendering. Then moving on to services. So new service specialist recruited starting quite soon. We got 11. The meeting took place on the 15th and the castle warden training on the 13th. In communications, we've had lots of trainings. The parliamentary election communications are taking place. And the previous project finalizing is being prepared. Also that AYYX Tokyo, the design notebook is up for grabs at the central office. In advocacy, our current equality planner or equality specialist is quitting, moving into other tasks, and then he will be starting their task on 28th. We've been in a seminar in Vasa last week. The AYY parliamentary steering group for the elections has started their work. So our plans regarding the elections will be published on the 23rd of March. And on administration sides, we have some changes in staff that's been already mentioned. The association web hotel terminations are being planned. We are planning to find a cooperation partner so the associations can still continue to get this kind of service in the future. We have the systems with other student unions regarding Tahlo systems, and the student representative systems have been terminated, and the SharePoint and Teams groups project will be clarified. We have started that, and we have a cooperation partner for this project already in place. Thank you. About the termination of web services, have you made an impact assessment? How will much this will actually, how much impact will be created? And you said you've tried to search for a cooperation partner as well. Who have we contacted, and when, and where? It might have been an answer. Okay, so the answer will be here. First off, when we are made a plan, we will take things into account. In the plan, we will not just start shutting down servers when we have reviewed the plans and made contingencies, and we have a solutions though that nobody will be left hanging. That was always been the baseline here, and that will continue from here on out. So finding with cooperation partners, for example, it's impossible to say that what the partner will be, but the idea is that AYY could combine forces or with other associations with parties that could, for example, get NPR licenses or NGO licenses or do the same things that we do, but better. Or with service providers, we could negotiate deals that it would be very, very cost effective or even free for associations to handle their business through those venues. But planning of termination, it's a strong choice of word for the fact that we are firstly and mainly planning. And once we've ensured what the continuation is, that nobody's going to be left in a problematic situation, we'll be making any decisions. So things are progressing. Thank you. The Finnish stream is not on. Somebody sent a message. Thank you. Let's wait for a while to get the stream back up. Somebody said something not into the microphone. So reiterating, have you done an impact assessment? If you're not, are you planning an impact assessment at some point? So an impact assessment in the sense that we know how many associations we have using these services. I can't remember the numbers from the top of my head, but what do you mean by an impact assessment? I don't know. We know what services are being used, and if we're making changes to this, we know who is being affected. But mainly the problem here is that with calculations, it costs at least 100 euros a month for each association, and then almost all associations need an IT specialist, which is not always there. This will also cause problems regarding cybersecurity. If we just cut these down and everybody will just place everything on Google somewhere, I feel that this we have skipped on the impact assessments. Instead of planning on how we are doing this, we could look at what does this affect, and then we'll do something. This could be a better organizational, even though the decision would have made last year, not by this year's board, to cut down on these services, it would be high time to think of these things. Coming on discussing the cooperation partner, we have individuals in the community who are interested in the subject. It would be pertinent that AYYE publicly would send out a call for individuals. If you're interested, please send an offer here. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Moving on to the board's wishes. We started the training shortly after the new year. Continued throughout January and also in February, so it's been busy. Met a lot of contact groups, alumni, Aalto leadership. We visited in whose Lyra project. Also took part in these auditing discussions, so quality assurance, and Syl's opening seminar. We were there. The almost entire board was present. Also did some squats at Tampere. And here's board feelings. So the things looked at by the board listed. So we have named representatives for tech, for the HOAS organs of trust, various committees and student representatives. We've also named new volunteers and did the recruitment for the Teekkari assembly meeting, handled projects that continue to this year, and made a statement to the World Student Capital Association, looked at the status of association contracts, and also discussed with the SUL godparent, updated our election or electoral regulations, and polished our parliamentary elections goals, along with other things. And we also did or took a statement on the HSL public transport student pricing for the years. Gave out some scholarships, and the single rental saunas did a decision on that actually today, that the 1st of March. So we'll have our single rental saunas opening right then, more early than planned. In this Microsoft 365 or Teams SharePoint, chosen a cooperation partner for that, and named a central election committee for the upcoming elections. Any questions you may also clarify and ask. Looks like there's no questions. Thank you. If you have any other questions, then please. For subject organizations, we were informed around Christmas that all subject organizations will not be taken into the IE, and we'll also have an event committee. So is there any information on the event committee? So we had our first meeting on Monday, talking about what they'd want to do, talked about some plans, and also the new things with IE. We had a kind of a get to know each other round, which took place as well. Continuing to question, we were also interested that what kind of committee are we talking about? About 15 individuals plus me and a producer. Thank you. Then Fielman followed by Pollari. Thank you. Can you please open up with a few words this the World Student Capital and the HSL and the contract details in a few words? So which were the World Student Capital? I'm an HSL, the public transport system. I can say that you were more awake at the meeting when it was discussed. I can say that the World Student Capital and the contract on WSC, it's about meeting specifics. We did all kinds of interesting decisions, nothing dramatic. So, and regarding the cooperation agreement, it defines the specs through which we will drive our fundraising. When we know that all the costs are rising, that we could find the money with TF and KY, that will define issues such as if we hire a coordinator, how will we pay them, and kind of a very technical document. it kind of clarifies the specs that have been discussed throughout this process. Yes, I'm also on the World Student Capital. That it was a situation where an association chairperson broke the rules of the association, and we wanted to take a stance on. We'll have an extra meeting. HSL contacted both us and who, and asked that we were given two options. One was that would we wish that student discounts would be paid only on the mobile app, or that HSL would also include the discount with a physical card, in the sense that it would include a service fee. So kind of the bad and worse in terms of options. We did a statement based on that both have their faults, but just mobile is bad. We don't wish this to go into that direction. So we defended the idea that you should get that to a student card in the future without any special statements or requirements. Also, and if this service fee would touch only students that for getting this kind of service fee, then it will, of course we would be negative on the subject. Continuation on the question, that's that these recruited individuals numbers are changing and things are changing, but there's no specifics that have been made on the subject. On the volunteer sector or the community framework sector, we have changes every year. And of course, says that we are not giving specific to the RepCo every year. We did other changes. We had a change in the administrative committee. No comments were made on this side. So this is more that the RepCo is more interested in this very one specific thing. In the community committee, we have not had discussions. As a person who sat in the committee last year, we can do if the RepCo wants to do so. We may make these changes, but these are kind of operative changes more than big actual changes. So. Grekov, Gilderangas on the same subject. Other parties that are affected. The affected parties, have they been included in the process? On KY's side, we felt like no. Instead, you have the question for last year's board. Before this meeting, we had a group chair meeting and we left. People from the volunteer side started to discuss, but the Gilderangas representatives were not present. About this digital committee, I asked about this last year, and you said that we could discuss this with the board. Have you discussed with the board, and with what basis decisions have been made? We have discussed this, and maybe what would be the best way to handle communications, but no, the issue that you mentioned has not been discussed. So does the board have a statement here that if you want this digital committee, we're not taking a stance on this as of yet. Thank you. Other questions? Amazing. Then we will be moving on to a short break at returning at past. Is there any other question? More a comment? So this committee works could be developed a lot, but last year it felt that we had quite a good boogie with a Takiva, and we managed to look at things in detail. I'm not sure that I was in Takiva that did this feeling, and the discussions that took place relay to the rest of the REPCO. It would be nice to hear from individuals or not, for example, in Takiva that at this real estate project, have we gotten enough information for this? As a REPCO member who is not in the community committee, I haven't heard anything from, well, anything, what's taking place. So if there are no other questions, we'll be moving to a break and continuing with the meeting proper at 18:38. So 15-minute break.
Welcome to European Council meeting 1/2023. It's Thursday, 16th of February 2023, and it's 6:39 p.m. Opening the meeting. Closing item 1, moving to item 2. Recording the members and deputy members of the council who are unavailable, disqualified, ineligible, resigned, and present. First, we'll see who are here. And Antti Ilmavirta will perform the roll call. Please voice it loudly when you hear your name that you're present. Thank you. Now I'd like to say that according to information I have received, that Tuomas Poutanen has graduated, and because of that, unfortunately, has to leave their post in the European Council. He apologized for not being able to be here anymore. Yes, roll call. Kuraniemi. Do we know when Stimpert will arrive? Or if they will arrive? Yes. So it seems likely. Okay. Moving on. Is there anyone whose name was not mentioned? Yes, thank you. You just saved us. Now we have quorum since you're here. Yeah, we have 25 representatives present. Yes, 25 representatives present. Yes, also give the right to speak to employees, interpreters, and OBS employees. So automatically grant the right to speak and to be present to the financial committee and financial director and the board. And right to be present is with all members of AYYE. I don't think there is anyone else who need to be granted the right to be present, the right to speak separately. So we can close item 2 and moving to item 3, recording the lawfulness and quorum of the meeting. Says according to our regulations, we have a quorum when there are at least 25 representatives present and the chair or vice chair of the Representative Council. And also the invitation needs to be published on the official bulletin board and website of AYYE at least 7 days prior to the meeting. And the invitation needs to be sent via email to members at least 7 days prior in Finnish, Swedish, and English. We have 25 representatives present and the chair, and the invitation to the meeting has been delivered at least 7 days prior to the bulletin board, emailing list, and the website. So the meeting is lawful and has quorum. Hasn't the board decided that the bulletin board is a website, that there is no separate bulletin board these days anymore. Yes, sounds very likely. This is something that has happened before I started in this position. Yes, in 2021, we made the decision that I think is still in effect, which states that the official bulletin board is found on AYYE inside. This information seems that it hasn't been communicated, but yes, this is the case. So there is no physical bulletin board anymore. Yes, thank you. Moving to item 4, election of 2 persons approving the minutes and 2 vote counters, and also the deputies for these persons. I propose that, as before, the persons who approve the minutes act as deputies to vote counters and vice versa. So this means that we need 4 names. Opening discussion. Filman. Anyone else? Any volunteers? I propose Visa Pollari. Is Visa Pollari available? Yes. Yes, as the scrutinizer of the minutes. Then we need 1 more vote counter. I'm available. Great. So we can close the discussion, and Filman and Pollari will approve of the minutes. Their deputies are Möls and Gregov, and vote counters are Gregov and Möls, and their deputies are Filman and Pollari. This has been decided. Closing item 4, moving to item 5. Confirming the agenda for the meeting. The agenda has been sent to you with the invitation to the meeting. Does anyone have anything to add to it? Apparently not. So then we will approve the agenda as the agenda for the meeting and close item 5. Moving to item 6, announcements, opening discussion. Seems awfully quiet, so closing discussion. Closing item 6. Moving to item 7, they are actually latest news from the office. We already went through the latest news from the office before the actual meeting, so if we have a discussion, I will open a discussion on the subject if anyone has anything to add. But yes, I can close the discussion, and according to the proposal, the Representing Council decided to record the latest news from the office. It's been decided. Closing item 7, moving to item 8. Stating the composition of Representative Council groups according to Appendix 8. Yes. Now, since the second term of the Representative Council, I don't think we have much of a need to state the actual composition, but there may be new chairs or new vice chairs with the groups. So we agreed that a member of the board will present the findings related to this. Yes, I'm Siren, first vice chair. I went through this and I hope I have marked down the chairs and vice chairs correctly. So, Kokoomus, Ikavalko, Malkamäki. Jeskylterirengas, Jeskifrantti, chair, Uikuri vice chair, Luja, Oliver Arlampi, Kimmo Saira. Yes, this was the other way around. Here I had to guess which one was which. Luova, Lauri Valla, Teemu Kanniainen, Does it sound correct? Skisma, Veera Mantula and Vesa Pollari. Yes. Okay. And yes, if there are any changes, please let us know. And we'll make the changes. And Vaaga. Yes, great. Vihreämpi Aalto. Robinson Heikkinen. Yes. Voltti. Eminen Titta. Yes, great. I think that's it. And we really don't need to have a discussion on this. We will just state how the compositions are. And according to the motion, the Representative Council decided to record the chairs and the vice chairs of the Representative Council groups in accordance with Appendix 8. It has been decided, closing item 8, moving to item 9. Establishment of Representative Council committees. In accordance with Section 22 of the Rules of Procedure of the Representative Council, the Representative Council may establish committees by separate decision. The Representative Council must determine the task, term of office, chair, and members of the committee when establishing the committee. Unless otherwise ordered in these Rules of Procedure or the regulations, the work of the Representative Council committees complies with the Rules of Procedure of the Board to the extent considered necessary by the chair of the committee. Here, we normally have had a preliminary discussion first.
Onko se tästä?
But now since this is the second term.
Fuck around and find out.
So first we have the community committee. First, we will choose the chair for the committee. We have one application. I'll read out the application. I apply as the chair for the community committee. I've been in a previous committee before and want to bring my expertise and yes, and it has also been stated that these vacant seats may be filled in the second meeting in 2023 if they are not filled in this meeting. Here you can see the composition of the community committee. Then moving on to the Finance and Real Estate Committee. For the Finance and Real Estate Committee, its chair, we have one application. You're going to find it on the mailing list. I will not read it out loud in its entirety. You can read it yourselves. But yes, Niko Yläpoikelus is running as the chair for the Finance and Real Estate Committee remotely from Barcelona. He has been in the committee also last year. And it's always good if we have some same people in these committees. Niko will come back to Finland in mid-May, but believes that he can also chair the committee remotely until that, because the hybrid meetings worked quite well before and makes it easier for members to take part in the meetings. Do we have any other candidates for the chair of the Finance and Real Estate Committee? Yes, so closing candidacy. And we can state that Niko Ylopoiklas will be elected as the chair for the Finance and Real Estate Committee. Here you can see the composition of the committee, and as was said about the community committee, there's still the possibility to fill vacant seats in the second meeting of the year as well. Luja has a person filling a seat for both committees. Yes, if we would take the community committee first, Kimmo Saira. Kimmo Saira, a regular member. And Samuli Vehkomäki, vice member. Does this look correct? Yes, good. Finance and Real Estate Committee, Juoso Haavanlammi, regular member, and Kimmo Saira as the vice member. Thank you. Anyone else have anything to add to the compositions? Yes, we will have, there's a separate item about the preliminary debate on the establishment of the Advocacy and Digital Committee. Yes, but I think now we can decide on these two committees. First, Haapamäki, please. I was just heard that Jaakko Siren would like to be the vice member for Aallon Kokoomus for the community committee. Now, as Niko was elected as chair for the Finance and Real Estate Committee, I could replace him as the regular member. Would you be interested in also being a member in the community committee? Okay, anyone else? Do I have anything to add? Apparently, no. Yes, we can decide the composition of the Finance and Real Estate Committee and Community Committee. So the Representing Council decided that it would establish the Finance and Real Estate Committee and the Community Committee and assign committees to support the decision-making process of the Student Union by making statements on matters related to the committee independently and at the request of the board or the employees of AYYE. The committees perform their duties as they see fit and receive support, training, and presentations from the AYYE board, AYYE employees, specialists, or volunteers. Also set the calendar year 2023 as a term of office for the committees, appoint committee chairs and members in accordance with Appendix 9, oblige committees to report on their work to the Representing Council at the Representing Council meetings. And also allow vacant seats in the committees to be filled in the Representing Council meeting 2 2023. This has been decided. We can close item 9. Point of order. As you stated, this decision was only for the establishment of these committees, but you did not mention the establishment of the Advocacy and Digital Committee. So since we are still in item 9 where we decide on the establishment, how should we proceed? But yes, do you want to propose that we now also establish the Digital Advocacy and Digital Committee? Do we have a support, a backer for this proposal? Yes, I support this Polari from Skismo. Does anyone want to vote on this? Jaakko from Luova, would it be possible to have a preliminary vote on this? Because I think that it has been quite challenging, especially for smaller groups, to find members for even these two committees. So if it's okay for you to ask whether representatives in this room would be willing to become members of the committee, because I don't think it's very meaningful to establish a committee with only 4 members. In that case, we should just establish a working group. But if we want a committee that would involve the entire representative council, it should have representation from all groups. So yes, could we canvass if we would have enough members? Malkamäki? Just also thinking, it's been some time since I was in the community committee myself, but there weren't that many kind of issues there. Couldn't these digital issues be also discussed in the community committee? I don't know how much work they will have, but maybe we don't need to have a committee for every single thing. Thank you. Pollari? That sounds like a good idea. That if there hasn't been that much work in the community committee, that could be a good solution to put this thing there. But to Saiku's comment about, because yeah, so the way we handle these committees in the council meetings is quite peculiar, because we want to have representation from all groups, but there are no actually decision matters there. It's just more a discussion club for people who are interested in the matter. Or that's how it is now. Maybe we can change it in the future, but that's how it is now. So if there is a kind of a group of people who want to discuss this matter, why wouldn't we give them the possibility to have this discussion? Of course, they can have this discussion in somewhere in the bar as well, but if people are interested in this, why cannot we give them the platform for the discussion if they want to discuss the matter? Yes, good point. Yes, as Saiku said or proposed, let's have a preliminary vote of whether we will establish the committee right away or have the preliminary debate on it first. I am not for this idea that we will have a vote where we decide whether to establish the committee or not. I think that the Saiku's point was that we could instead have a very preliminary vote so we could see if we even have the people who would want to participate. So if almost everyone shows red votes no, then maybe we shouldn't establish it. So it wouldn't be a vote of whether to establish it or not. Spoiler from Schisma. I don't think the European Council here is not very representative because we only have 25 members present. But I think the preliminary debate on the matter would be good to be held, and also to have a meta discussion about the role of committees and how they should be utilized. Yes, item 10 is the preliminary debate on the establishment of advocacy and digital committee. So we're going to reach that item soon, but we have a proposal that has been backed. We have to do proposals to see whether we have the resources or the willingness for people to establish and take part in this committee. That's going to be a proposal of establishing the committee. So if we vote on whether to establish it or not, it would also show us if we have the willingness and resources to establish it. Yes, amazing feedback. Thank you. Malkamäki. I don't want a vote about establishing anything on item 9. I am against that. Yes, point of order. There's a proposal for change where, yes, we need to have a vote on it, whether you want it or not. Since there is a proposal, so we have to vote on it. We have 25 members present, so if there's a negative decision to not establish it, I want to remind people that it's not very representative. Yes, and if we decide not to establish it, then we will move on to the debate on its establishment. To support this, because yes, if we need to have the debate, maybe could we have the debate now and decide on the establishment next time? Malkamäki's comment. Could we have a vote on the urgency of the preliminary debate so that it would be handled before we close item 9? Yes, I think it's very important to have preliminary debates before the actual vote. So this was a real proposal. So if we vote that it's urgent, then we could have the debate before this. We can just not decide on item 9 and move on to item 10 and then get back to item 9. We don't have to vote. Is this okay with the representative council? Is it okay that we will not yet close item 9, but rather move on to item 10? And then possibly get back to item 9. I oppose this. Preliminary debate. What are we voting on? I propose for us to leave item 9 open, move on to item 10, then get back to item 9, and if we want to, then vote on the establishment of the Advocacy and Digital Committee. No counter proposals. I'd like to note that the interpreter could not hear it because the speaker did not have a microphone. Please keep them. What are we voting on? What does the blue slip mean? Yes, now we will vote on whether we will move on to item 10 before closing item 9. Yes, so moving on to item 10, preliminary debate on the establishment of the Advocacy and Digital Committee. So we will have this discussion. First, we will discuss the Advocacy Committee.
Okay. So we've had 2 committees planned. First would be the Advocacy Committee, or Affecting Committee on Affecting Things. It would preliminarily consider updating the policy paper on advocacy. The committee may also concern sector-based ideas on a more broad subject on regulation updates, group cooperation, etc. Opening discussion. So Malkamäki, Aallon kokoomus, Aalto coalition. This seems like a good idea in general, that I hope that we'll have a channel for members to send their own ideas, so that even though you might not be a member, since I'm already in another committee, but I want to take an advocacy stance on the policy paper. Thank you. As stated, I propose that the name would be Vaiva, not Vava. It's a good presentation from coalition that how to develop the coalition, the committee's activities, that they wouldn't be like echo chambers or black boxes. That if the board remembers to toss them something to discuss, but you could actually send them topics to discuss proactively. I believe that this would develop the committee and make it more of a proactive entity. Vaiva is a good name. Also means trouble or nuisance in Finnish. So these ideas have started from the central office, so they will probably want to utilize these. But does the director have, or the chairperson have anything to say? This has come from our advocacy staff members. Has to do with the fact that with the project we had this updating the policy paper. We opened up the policy paper at the central office and looked at it. We decided that it could be kind of exploding the policy paper would be a more appropriate title. We would like to make the repco handling lighter. So we hope that we would have interested parties. From the repco. The idea when we discussed this in the meeting was that we would have, it would be really nice that the committee members would be discussing these topics with their own groups, that we would have the group stances known beforehand when bringing them into the Great Hall. It's kind of quite the topic to handle, quite the Goliath to tackle. So all things that can be handled between meetings, like Malkamäki stated, that we could have information flow both ways, would be very nice, which is why we hope this could be established. Do we have any other requests? Grekov. I wanted that to come on this very issue as an old YYE chairperson from year X, that it did work best in this way that maybe you, but if somebody from your side could participate, that the communication would flow between groups. And when we are updating the policy paper, it would be essential that these issues would be discussed in the groups first before the individuals come to the meeting. It doesn't really bring any use that we discuss it with a small group, then bring it to the Great Hall and get the result of, oh, this is very wrong. But rather discuss things in a sensible manner to make the process more efficient. Thank you. Alakamäki. I wanted to bring this concern forth that we have exactly 25 of us here today, that we have quorum. The more of these frameworks that we have, these specific committees we have, would be needed that we have one person from one group. Currently, I personally am not very trustworthy of the situation that we would have an individual for each and every committee. Would actually do this with aplomb. But we should kind of make this Repco activities, make them lighter. And now we are kind of planning on something that would not do that. It would be counterproductive. So one option would be that we could cooperate with other groups. Bilderängas is pretty big. We don't have this problem, but with small groups, it might be. So cooperation is key. So even though that we wouldn't not have individuals from all groups, we'd have from other groups, from our staff, to get all of our voices heard. That it would be just take the whole policy paper and it's dozens of pages having people hours on end discussing it. There's lots of opinions. It's good that we have opinions and we have a lot of opinions, so we have a lot of proposals for change. It makes for a very cumbersome process. I interpret that there are no other questions on the subject. This on the preliminary debate on the advocacy committee, then discussing the digital and IT committee, DIVA in Finnish, or the acronym items would concern on AYY's IT and digital strategy, its implementation, and the services offered to members, including but not limited to the IT digital strategy, digital member services, services for associations, discussions on implementation of the strategy, and cooperation with UVA on the problems in the community. Opening discussion. It was a very important thing for for this year, that we are cutting down on very important issues and services. It's important that we handle these matters in a pertinent manner. There's the problem that we wouldn't have members from every group, but I think that's okay, because not everybody needs to be interested in everything. There's kind of a natural divide on people's interest is perfectly okay, because it's natural. And digital issues, we want people who are actually interested in this. We would want them to participate. That people who want to work towards this and have an impact. Also discussed on work groups, etc., because committees are a good tool with its own practices. The committees, it's more sensible for them to gain information than these other types of groups. So this is necessary. There's interest in several groups, and we'll have the discussion. So definitely we should set up DIVA, or Digital and IT Committee, when we are discussing cutbacks. So the committee like this would bring forth opinions. Thank you. Malcolm. The end of last year, one of the meetings, we had a long discussion on digital issues, and we felt that these are operative enough that the RepCo does not need to handle this. I feel that it would be weird to set up a committee for this issue that the RepCo does not need to handle because they're operative. It would be counterintuitive. And when discussing things that overlap with Yva and Takiva, I would challenge the need for a committee like this. Is this something that we truly need, or is this something that we could just shunt these off to Yva? As a counter comment, that as it's been very evident that with no impact assessment on this has been made by the board. I've been chairperson in a few organizations. It's a lot of work for this group, but if we start to cut back on these services, and as has been mentioned several times, that we have an internal need for IT services and email lists. RepCo needs to discuss this. If it's a small group, then so be it. If the Aalto coalition does not have interest to participate, then that's that. This has a large impact on our community that we need to discuss this in some group or another. Thank you. Yes, from the right. So, what? I second Malgamäki's point in the sense that do we have, is it pertinent to set up another committee that maybe does something throughout the year, as like the previously committees have been a bit off the topic, in the sense that to Fielman's point is that many of the points you raised had to do with the problems in the community in relation to these maybe to be cut digital services. So would the community committee be the place to assess the impact? Thank you. It is not. The community committee has individuals who are interested in community or things pertaining to community, but this is community service issue, which focuses on digital issues. We have, for example, chosen individuals to the community committee. We have chosen individuals who are interested in the community as a whole, but people are interested in digital issues have not actually been in these committees at all. So we should say that this would be an issue. This is not something that does not interest people. It's not something that can be said. Any other requests for the floor? Malgamäki. I would be very careful that people in UVA are not interested in digitalization. So quite a leap of logic. Thank you, Fielman. But these are not the individuals who are most interested in digitalization. Thank you. Do we have any other requests for the floor? I will otherwise end discussions on the subject. Like stated, closing the discussion. Moving to decide. RepCo decided to place on record the preliminary discussion on the subject. discussed and concluded, closing item 10 and returning to item 9, establishment of representative council committees. At this stage, I would like to start with a preliminary vote on whether or not we will set up the Digital and IT Committee DIVA right now. And the counter proposal is that we will leave that to a preliminary debate level. Does not mean that we will never have it set it up, just that we won't set it up right now. It can be done in a later meeting. Everything is clear. So placards up. Preliminary is very clear. So blue template prevails. So we will not set up a digital and IT committee right now. Closing item 9. 11, which is the state of the property sales project. Actually, no, we will not be moving to item 11. We'll be moving to item 11, which will not be handled. The state of the property sales project. We heard from Newsec and Kivimäki before the meeting. And if there's discussion on the subject, I will open the discussion on the subject. No discussion, so I will close the discussion. Moving to decide. The representative council decided to place on record the state of the property sales project. Decided. Closing item 11, moving on to item 12. Report on the 2022 Plan of Action projects. Antti, please. Thank you. The chairperson. We have long deck of slides with lots of discussion and details. I will not be reading them in detail. I will be focusing on mainly highlights sent in 3 languages. You may check these details from the material. Ask if it feels that I am leaving something out. First slides are directly from the plan of action. I won't go through this. You know this from last year. Report on the results of the project. At the end of last year, we had this all kinds of things happening, which is why it ended so that we didn't give out the results of the project. So this is better late than never. People are smirking in a way that has it happened so that we have the version that it says like, please don't translate this slide. Yes, it's in the presentation material. There's a version that the chairperson has sent. We will send the correct version, which does not say that do not translate this, that this is still a draft. Sorry for that from the chairperson. Notice this very same thing. Can we we have the right slides, but yes, it's only one slide. Everything else is completely correct. Service drafts, this looks better than what the draft says. Something is not said into the microphone, but it is apparently very funny. Gladly, we have the version for that. We will mark the comment that what Kainulainen's PC has. Service depiction. Or like a communication side of things. We discussed this last at the end of the year that we did a plan with Gofore that they would carry out this kind of a consultancy project, which went very well. We got lots of important answers and feedback from the grassroots level. I think Gofara handed out candy and asked questions like, what do they know from our services? Workshopped at our office as well. Maybe the most essential thing being that we had a new framework. How do our services flow in people's opinion? And we have the web page update project this year that we will be utilizing this information there. We'll have the questions here by project. Is that okay with the chairperson? Fielman. Quick. AYYYE's web pages have been criticized many times, and always the answer is that they're very nice. Don't criticize. So hopefully with this item we'll improve feedback as well, given feedback. Yes, if we are improving the web pages, then we will improve everything, and it's good that we get feedback, that we can reach the best possible solution. Digital customer paths, lots of text. The main points: we had a new tool for access control or key control, that we have a new system of keys, that we know where our keys are at. We have a plethora of keys, all kinds of house keys, and there are a lot of houses. This is good. But we will develop the system for rentals, thinking of what to do with Domo, what will come after Domo. Will something come after Domo at all? We will develop Domo. The rental system would be really nice that when we have the tila.ayy.fee, that you rent something, that it actually you could pay it directly. We thought about whether or not we could have a third system, which would be good. But currently the most promising one is that we develop tila.ayy.fee, that we can get direct payments. Looks something that can be done. Looks like we have a question from Fielman. Earlier we had this AYYE and which was integrated into Domo. I think, in my opinion, the bad thing was that we will try to keep it and not integrate. What was the point of this change? Where did it come from? I have no knowledge of this first, probably before my time. And in tila.ayy.fee, the idea is that we have not been satisfied with the options that we have looked into with paid trail, etc. So this has been something that has been discussed earlier, that decided that it's not something that could be done. And now we decided it's something that could be done. So this could be the quick solution. We might be moving into a third party solution at some point, which would be even better. So to get this up and running on any point, it could be big enough that we'll have on email in the future or not. What about the payments by members? The largest challenge is in international students, especially EU ETA, getting money from outside of EU ETA countries with or returning money. Or the costs are quite exuberant. There, something about the slides was the only the one slide different, or we'll have the correct version sent to you. We have the English and Swedish versions. They are correct. supporting our volunteers. Had quite a broad project for volunteer support. Thought about one clear thing would be that we need data. We discussed it during the summer or the spring, and the first things came during the fall, and then we had the other in December. We had lots of people who answered the survey because we had movie tickets, etc. So it motivated people to answer. We had lots of people answering the survey. We have also looked at the results. We also received numerical data, but also open answers a lot. A broader picture for that. And this to developing our activities, something that we'll look into in the future as well. Proposals for change have also been implemented. The biggest theme being that our meeting room is the biggest thing is that it's very, very, very filthy. So people have organized cleaning shifts for this, so that we have taken action. And it's the idea is to make the survey into something that is recurring. Of course, supporting our volunteers as a project is not something that is let's do something and it's ready, but it's an ongoing project. We'll visit meetings, be accessible, be at reach. We also aim to organize these kind of refreshment events, actually refreshing, not just kind of drinking alcohol. And of course, trainings to improve our volunteers' skills.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So data administration and management. Talk about this project. Tenders have been approved. And also the frame system for the real estate sector and issues related to the Domo. Then parking space management will be also switched over to frame, for example. So the goal here is to have these central information in the same system, not scattered through different systems and sources. Then the student well-being project that we got 100,000 euros from the Ministry of Education and Culture. We used the money for Mieli Mental Health Finland mental health first aid training, which was for tutors, volunteers, associations, and students. There were also plans to provide instructor training, but there were not enough participants. The instructor training would take 3 full working days, which seemed to be too much. Then also there were some equipment and device purchases done in cooperation with OBS to make the organization events easier in the future. And since we had money left over from this cancelled instructor training, we used the money so that associations could request for sports and recreational equipment. And we managed to fulfill most of these requests. Thank you. Vilma from Valtti. Very nice to hear that associations have been supported in this way. This is also good for transparency. Or for transparency, could we have a list of what has been purchased? Because I've heard there's some cool purchases made, so it'd be nice to have a list of all these things purchased for the associations. Well, yeah. In theory, it's possible. I don't think it's not that confidential. It was 600 euros per association, the maximum. And the requests range from board games to sports equipment and from like hiking or camping equipment, some also instruments. So it's kind of yes, recreational equipment. I can check how do we have some kind of list? Can we send it as is, or is it just a collection of different emails? Then equity in the Aalto community. There's a lot of small text here, but there are also many green check marks here. We have the equity website up now. 2 equity officers who act as harassment contact persons. Also have anonymous minority stress reporting tool. Also anti-racist training for staff. Finalizing finishing and piloting the guide for harassment contact persons. It should be released very soon. Then, yes, Fielman. Thank you. I know this minority panel. Is it mostly for promoting the English language, or does it also involve defending and protecting Finnish as a minority language? Yes, it's not a minority language in Finland, but yes, elsewhere. I cannot really say. I haven't looked that much into this, but I think the idea here is that language would be accessible for everyone. No other questions? So yes, next student center fundraising. I think we have told you about this along the way. SES Foundation fundraising, we have started that together with KYNTF. Unfortunately, we didn't get this Christmas present money from the parliament, but we have very positive discussion from them, or they kind of suggested that we could get money from the government through some other channel. So it's not certain, but we haven't thrown in the towel yet. And these operations for discontinue this year. We have prepared a fundraising agreement between the organizations. Next, we will prepare the recruitment of a joint fundraising coordinator, or we will recruit this coordinator to actually get the money. Then carbon neutrality analysis for associations. We prepared this analysis. It was prepared by Laura Luoto, our communications and advocacy expert, but Laura changed jobs. We're now waiting for her successor. So until we have a new social policy expert, Tina, until she starts in her job, we will have to wait until that. So this was kind of left in the sidelines at the end of last year, but we will get back to it this year once we have the person who can work on it. Then development of AYY's student housing stock. You should be very familiar with this. It has to do with these issues that we already discussed today and the Otokari projects. Serviniemi renovations are also coming up. Yes, that was it in its entirety. Do you have any kind of questions or requests related to this, Fielman? Thank you. About the renovations, basic renovations for real estate, I'd like to note that when they're done, members of the community and associations should also be involved in the performance analysis. I'd like to point out that an example For example, the Polytechnic Radio Club have now waited 2 or 3 years to get their antenna back on the roof. So it would be nice if you could also, or we could also look into the associations when looking at the performance indicators. So I would hope for this to be taken more into account in the analysis as well, the opinions of the members and associations in these buildings. Thank you. Any other requests from floor? If not, then I'll close the discussion and we can move on to the decision. The motion is that the Robert Council decided to record the report on the 2022 Plan of Action projects. This has been decided. Closing item 12. Moving to item 13, updating the student union's election bylaws. Unfortunately, there's a wrong name on the agenda. It says Ojelma, but the person presenting this will be Antti Ilmavirta instead. So go ahead. Thank you. Chair. So I agreed with Annika that since this is right at the end of the meeting, we want to use her working hours for this, but rather I will present it. This is a relatively small issue, actually. So the proposal is that this here in the red about the electronic voting system. So we will have a cybersecurity check on the electronic voting system done by an independent party appointed by the Central Election Committee. Why do we want to remove this? We have never purchased or acquired this kind of cybersecurity check. We used WHO's system in 2017-2019, which WHO had already audited for cybersecurity. And we saw the Central Election Committee saw that it was enough, that this audit had already been made. And for 2021, AYYE bought this Vakka voting system from Trevelta. And Trevea had already audited its own system and showed also that in the attachments of the agreement. But if we look at this literally, this entry in the bylaws, then it would mean that we would have to do the cybersecurity check anyway. So the Central Election Committee appointed AYYE's IT expert to test the data or cybersecurity of the system. And we got also notice from Trevea that AYYE's IT expert is not an independent party as is stated in the bylaws. When we did tendering for this data security check, and the result was that it would have cost at least 10,000 euros, and then the elections were already there, so we didn't do the data security check. And we also reported this to representative council. The office saw that this entry in the bylaws it already says there that the level of data security needs to be sufficient. This is already stated in the bylaws. And when we buy this kind of software, if the provider also provides sufficient reports about data security, that should be enough, and it would be good that we could have faith that that report is enough. And then if we build the system ourselves, then we would be responsible for data security, in which case purchasing external audit for data security would be justified already based on this entry shown here, which says that the data security level needs to be sufficient. So that's why we propose that we remove this entry. The electronic election system is subject to data security audit provided by an independent body appointed by the Central Election Committee. so that if we use a system that has already been audited for data security, we wouldn't have to do it a second time. Because that would have to be done if we take the literal interpretation of this section in the bylaws. Thank you. Opening discussion. Filman. I think it's kind of sad when we always talk that the AYYE needs to be a trailblazer, and we also did this Nixus audit check. Before, why would we lower our level of data security? Even though I do understand this change, but I also hope that we also send a message to the cybersecurity center that what do they think, that is it enough to have this kind of audit made by the company who provided the system? That what would be the cybersecurity center's opinion? Polare from Schisma. One thing related to this election platform that would be interesting is that if we could do some kind of a benchmarking, compare it to other student unions, because they have this kind of same problems with the system, even if the system is different. And I don't think it would be too much work to send them email and ask how they are doing with this. Yes, first, the Central Election Committee still can, according to this section 1 that I showed, can do these measures. For example, do a data security audit to make sure that the data security level is sufficient. It's already possible. And to Polari's question about, well, yes, we have already talked about this with other student unions, done benchmarking, and many of them used this VACA system by Trevea. But the challenge is that, well, it would be cool if all student unions would come together and acquire the same system, because that would be cheaper as well than buying separate systems for each student union. We have had some discussion about this already with the Secretary General in student unions, and also asked if SYL could act as coordinator. But this is not a trivial issue, as this is something new. AYYE hasn't really done anything like this before. And of course, an individual student union may also act as coordinator. It doesn't have to be SYL, but so far no student union has voiced to be a volunteer. And the problem is that the systems on the market, they are very affordable and work very well. So this problem is not that critical. I think the bigger problem is in the voting aid application, because it's difficult to find an affordable voting aid application that would also work well. The voting systems are, their supply is better. Thank you. It seems that there are no other requests for floor, so I'll close discussion and making the decision. The motion, if I interpret correctly, that there are no counter proposals to this. So the motion is that the Representative Council decided to approve an amendment to the election bylaws in accordance with Appendix 11. This has been decided. And closing item 13, moving to item 14, other business.
Opening discussions with the comment that with the vice chair, second vice chair, Kuraniemi, talked about the after party. Thank you, Chairperson. I would like to announce to the Representative Council that the after party will be at Keto. We have a beer, wine, baguettes, grapes, and crisps. Ilman. followed by Siren. I wanted to mention in the meeting that from the emailing list we had discussion on the policies and volunteers and including the business students. With this, I would like to bring out forward that the students have specific things that you cannot join your community even if you want to join your community. You have been given specific advantages. So I feel that the complaints that you cannot join the Teekkari coalition things is a very interesting, considering you yourself have these privileges bestowed upon you. Thank you. The beer is too cold. We have a warm beer and without any carbon dioxide as well. Thank you. Let's maybe not to do these advertisements in the future. Any other emerging matters? We have some emerging matters. Well, I don't want to go deep into this conversation on these KY's privileges in this forum, but in this stage it was mainly about the subject organizations for business students, not KY. The other problem we had, especially with this decision, was the fact that how it was made. It was hard to gain any information prior to the decision. It felt that it was been hidden because we had individuals who tried to ask about this IE decision prior to the meeting from their own committee chair people and never received any information on how it's progressing. What I would want that everybody would learn from here is that in your working life, please do not do these kinds of decisions where you cut people off without hearing from these individuals, because this is a point of consternation. Something that has very much irked me during this REPCO. Thank you. Maybe second this in the sense that I hope that AYY understands that the committees are something for a kind of a basic active, the most clear place where what the student unions brings into their life. So it's regrettable that these changes are made without any information. It's something that, for your information, things are like this. So yes, thank you for the comment. Something that we may discuss in future meetings if this isn't something not in the meta stage, but let's have a comment from Grekov. Yes, the idea that we don't really need that we would be participated in or included at these grassroots level individuals who it affected, these organizational level people, they could have been included. Thank you. Any other emerging matters? Wonderful. Then I will close the discussions and close item 14, other emerging matters. Moving on to item 15, closing the meeting. It is 8 p.m. and I end the meeting.